welcome. So glad you're here. It really goes without saying, but I'll say it many times. You really respect.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are Team CleanCondense. My name is Spencer Legrid.
I'm Baird Carlson. My name is David Meehan.
Our good friend Dennis Marquis couldn't be with us today. He's a traveling technology consultant for Accenture. So first, we want to show you guys a couple of these headlines. The Wet Prince of Bel-Air. A little bit funny, a little bit absurd. But when we were brainstorming a few months ago, this caught our attention. And it's because the drought in California is something that's very familiar to us. Baird's from California. David's grandparents lived there. And we began to realize that we think we have a problem. But more importantly, we think we have a customer segment. And so we set out with a mission. We were going to solve California's drought by helping wealthy, over-consuming residents avoid high prices and government regulation within home water production. This was actualized by Airwell, a condensation well that would pull air in, compress it, condense it, and turn it into liquid water. This was great. It totally made sense, and we loved it. And we started to do a lot of research, and we thought we had our customer segment.
But we were wrong. This past semester, we entered the I-Corps program and did an extensive customer discovery. What you see here before you are two photos from Jane Mitsumuri, the California resident that I spoke to myself. And she exemplifies exactly why we switch from trying to serve wealthy Californians who want lawns to our new customer segment. If you see here, Jane has ripped up her lawn. This is a story we heard from all of the other customers that we spoke to, was that the lawn wasn't that important to them. They were willing to get rid of it. They didn't like that their lawn was hurting California's environment in its time of need. And so they were ripping it up. But we did find a very strong point of value that we think we can help our customers with. And that is their garden that they're replacing it with. Most of these gardens to Californians are very important to their lives. Every time I spoke to customers like Jane, Fran, and Janet about their garden, they lit up with excitement to talk about what they were growing, how it looked, what it smelled like, what they were doing in terms of best practices to maintain it. And this was especially true for those customers that were growing produce. Anyone growing produce in California was excited about it. It was a very big part of their life, something they loved and something that added a lot of value to them. And so we figured, why can't we help these customers? The second point of value that I'd like to talk about is that second photo, the rain bucket there. It's ironic because California doesn't have enough rain. But what you see here is that Jane is trying to do her own in-home gray water generation. She knows that the garden she loves so much and the fruits that she's growing are hurting California's stressed environment, and she doesn't want that to happen. She likes the wildlife there, the fish. All of that adds a lot of value to her life, as well as looking green and making sure that she's able to maintain a green lifestyle. There's a reason that California has the most Teslas. There's a reason that solar panels go all throughout the state. And that same reason is why we think California is going to be the state with the most in-home water generation production units. So we had a customer segment pivot. We wanted to switch from wealthy Californians who want lawns to dedicated gardeners and environmentalists struggling under drought conditions, which led us to our new purpose today. We help environmentalist homeowners with gardens sustain their landscape and maintain a green image with or without drought conditions. And there are two very important things to note about our mission statement. The first part is with or without drought conditions. The fact is California's gotten a lot of rain this winter. That being said, they're still in a drought. San Diego has not lifted the drought restrictions, and its citizens are required to water their outdoor landscaping no more than twice a week. Moreover, the high water prices that California has experienced since the drought are still in place and still negatively impacting consumers. The second part of our mission statement that I'd like to talk about is how it differentiates us from our competitors. There are other competitors such as Airdrop, which are trying to sell to farmers, but they're marketing their product to the wrong customer segment. They don't have the amount of quantity they can deal with farmers, even using drip technology. And any competitor producing a condensation well trying to purify water for drinking uses is spending too much energy and too much capital expense on putting filtration units into their product and wasting energy on pushing water through these systems to make it drinkable. We want to do gray water generation and sell to people who don't want to have their garden hurt California's beautiful environment. And it's a completely different idea and a completely different business model. So our value proposition is twofold. I'd like to talk first again about the environmentalism aspect. I think that is our biggest push here, and what I think really will drive consumers to purchase our product. That being said, the water that we add has a monetary value, and avoiding the government is going to be a very big selling point for us. I know that Southern Californians are going to have trouble keeping their gardens fresh and as healthy vegetable production as they can, given that they can only water their plants twice a week. That's just not enough to meet their needs. And so that's where we add a lot of value. Now I'd like to introduce Dennis Marquis. I'd like to talk about the future market size for a second here. There are 13 million households in California right now. 35% of households in America grow produce, and that leaves us with 4.5 million gardeners in California. These gardens are using roughly 100 gallons of water a week per average, which puts all of these consumers in high-consuming water brackets, paying very high prices. Now I'd like to introduce you to Dennis Marquis. He's our chief engineer on the project and has prepared a little bit of a video for you guys to hear about his design.
Hi, I'm Dennis Marquis, chief engineer. I studied biomedical engineering at Boston University and graduated summa cum laude in 2015. I'm currently working as a technology consultant for Accenture, working on a large-scale software implementation at a pharmaceutical client. I'm excited to be part of the CleanCondense team. Let's take a look at our design. Our system consists of a solar-powered blower, which drives high volumes of air below ground through a series of copper coils. The reduced ground temperature induces condensation at the surface of the coils, which then collects at a reservoir approximately 10 feet deep. The dehumidified air is free to escape through a rectangular outlet. Meanwhile, an electric pump triggered by a float valve pumps the collected water to the base of the system. The availability of atmospheric water and the resulting efficiency of our design are closely related to the temperature and humidity conditions of the surrounding air. Ideally, we want a high initial temperature and relative humidity, both of which are present in California air. With conservative estimates of 20 degrees Celsius and 70% relative humidity, our system is capable of extracting 250 gallons of water in a week if allowed to run continuously for 12 hours each day. This is more than enough water generation to sustain a large residential garden, especially if coupled with drip irrigation techniques, which can double the effectiveness of the extracted water. 260 solar panels, along with a battery for storage, make our system entirely power neutral. Although we're excited that we have a viable product, we're continuously looking for ways to expand and evolve our prototype.
All right, so now let's talk about how this feels from the consumer's perspective. We're planning on selling this unit online at a retail price of $1,600. In California, we're applying a 30% tax credit against that retail price, which will knock it down, because of the solar array, which will knock it down by $480. The unit itself will irrigate the equivalent of 400 gallons per week with drip technology. And assuming that you're using the full generation capacity of the unit, that comes out to an ROI of 8%. If you don't need all of this water generation in your garden, you can swap out your water generation for solar production and sell back to the California grid to take advantage of California's net metering system. So, day one operations. We're going to start with this beautiful building in Lancaster, California. We're going to roll in a Ford F-150 and slap on a backhoe and swap out some of these components, like a motor and an auger array so that we can install the system ourselves. We'll also be creating and maintaining a website that will serve as our point of sale for the units, and we're looking at total upfront investment costs, fixed investment costs of $32,729 on day one, so that we can begin serving customers immediately. Now, our ask for this competition would be for funding to apply against this number, so that we may begin operations and have full control over our operations. The system would work a little bit like this. We would be selling online and over the phone to our consumers, us and a few hired members of the team who will source from California. We will be manufacturing, delivering, and installing the unit ourselves. And through this, we'll keep our operations costs and our customer acquisition costs low. Now, in terms of variable costs here, we're looking at materials costs on the unit of about $10.50. These are component costs that include the motor, tubing, the solar array, and all of that. And then we're looking at manufacturing and installation costs, mostly labor, the gasket here and there, of about $240. Now that brings our total cost of goods to $12.90 per unit, and at a retail price of $1,600, This means our contribution margin per unit will be $310. That leads factoring in the cost of rent and other costs that are not factored into the original fixed. And this cost, we're looking at a break-even point of 10 units per month, or about 1 unit every 3 days. Given our potential market of 4.5 million customers in California, we're pretty confident that we can hit our sales targets. And so if we secure the fixed cost financing on first day, we can be profitable immediately upon operations.
So why us? We're a unique team of problem solvers. We've been working together for months. We've developed a good chemistry, but more importantly, we've learned how to work together. And we've become effective. Working through different ideas and working through different objectives, we've come to understand through all the various programming and events that the university has put on of how to go properly about these methods. And because of this, we know exactly who our customers are. We've worked through these problems and we've hit road bumps. And because of that, we've become more experienced and our product has evolved to a point of where we know we can be profitable. And so we thank you for your time today. We hope you can support us, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
All right, so now we can.
Can this water serve as drinking water as well?
No.
No?
Gray water.
Yeah, great, correct.
Go over your margins one more time. 1,290 is your cost of goods sold, and what's your selling price?
1,600.
1,600. That's a pretty thin margin. 320, 310. It's gross margin because you're just only subtracting cost of goods sold. You're not
Right.
subtracting your other overhead and rent, as you pointed out.
Right.
You sure you're going to be able to survive with that thin a margin?
Sure. Yeah, we can we can distribute the costing model that we have if you'd like. As we said, we have a model that's predicting our break-even point at 10 units per month. After that margin, also accounting for the costs that have not been added into these variable costs here. So that would be the cost of rent, the cost of depreciation on our shop tools, and that kind of thing.
And when do you start installing these?
Immediately, if possible. We'll be producing these as the orders come in.
It's ready to roll right now.
So we'll have to move our operation to California,
Sure.
put down the lease on this building, put the requisite materials in so we can get in production.
But the product itself is ready for prime time.
If I can add in here, all of the materials we're purchasing are ready to go. They just have to be assembled. So if you look at the motor, we're buying a complete motor. You look at the reservoir tank, we're buying a complete reservoir tank. So we just have to move into our building and start putting all of the parts together, and then we can move out and start installing the unit.
So all your products, that's the question, all your material is off-the-shelf items, nothing's really proprietary. You're just buying the motor from here, everything else that's...
And that's also part of what will be able to help drive down our costs in the long run as well.
Let's go back to the slide, it was the one that threw me off, the solar credit one.
Yes.
So are you having to add, if a house currently has solar, and they want to install your device, they're not going to get that
Well,
solar tax credit?
According to our research, that because of the way that the programs have been going, that it's any time that there is a new project installed, because there's no longer a cap. There used to be a $2,000 cap that could be per household, but the $2,000 cap was removed, and because of that, it's 30% on any new project.
All right. So it doesn't have to be integrated into the rest of the house?
Correct.
This can be dedicated, and
Correct.
because you're saying it's a new product that could have consumed electricity, they're going to get the solar credit?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
And the other side of it, that's what's so important, is that this itself will be net positive when it comes to energy, because it could be consuming all the energy it's putting out. We have gotten the proper sized motor and proper sized solar panels to make sure that we are generating the right amount of energy so that this does not need to pull from another source of
So
energy.
your energy balance is neutral?
Correct. And the other side of that too is that if people are not using this to full production, which is most likely the case, any extra energy generated can be sold back into the grid through California's net metering program.
That's what threw me off, because when you said that, then it has to be integrated into their whole house system and not be a dedicated unit for this. And there's costs of doing that with the reverse switch that, so there's some other
Correct.
complications that I think
We have added in electrician costs into our variable costs, so we're factoring that in there.
Yeah, check that, just a caution, you can check that
Sure.
a little more closely, because that's
Oh, yeah.
when you can get hung up on having a switch that sends back into the grid.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So go ahead. One question and a comment. The comment first is that it might be useful in the financials to factor in repairs, reinstalls, and returns. Because the number of moving parts you have, and you're starting off with scratch, my guess is that probably at least 20% of the installations will probably have one of the three. Either repair or reinstall or return. That's my guess. Again, just somebody.
Okay.
The question then is, but about the electricity use. So this runs on a battery or is it
Solar.
solar?
So the way that this will have to, in order for us to start up the motor, we'll need to have a battery that can hold surge power so that we can overcome the initial electrical friction of the motor.
Right.
That battery is just for the initial surge to start the motor. So any input from the solar panel is going to go into the battery first, and then from there it's going to go into the system. Does that make sense?
All right.
Yeah, and then the solar panels will continue to run that motor 12 hours a day or less.
How many square feet of solar panels do you need to run it?
Yeah, what is our
They're two regular. They're two smaller panels. They're only 260 kilowatt hour ones. So they're, I believe they're
3 by 5.
2 3x5?
Yeah.
5 foot?
yeah,
So, yeah.
Okay, so it's 30 square feet.
correct.
Okay.
But that was, we also factored that in. When we did our customer discovery, a lot of the folks that we were talking to, that with the size of their gardens, that was something that they would be willing to have because that was part of how it could generate the success. That's kind of that value
A lot of people
proposition.
in California already have solar panels on their roof.
Correct.
Could they take part of that?
Yes, definitely. I mean,
Dedicated?
yes, yeah, that is also certainly something that could be done as well.
So, first of all, it's very refreshing that you actually put a number up there. You think you might be the first group that actually put, we want this much or we need this much. So that's interesting. I think it's low, but it was refreshing, and good job on that. So here's the real question: if you get the money, are you going to do it, or are you going to Morton's?
Well, so Eric's going back to California. He lives there. My family lives there as well.
We definitely have reasonable avenues to get out there. We're both graduating seniors. This is something where we let me put it like this. I'm a political science student. I started this as something because through the partner, through Launchpad and through the other parts of entrepreneurship office here, I got the bug. And I really enjoy this kind of thing. And I feel like this is something that we've kind of bought into as a team.
If I can add on there, we're really passionate about this and saving California's environment. That's one of the reasons we kind of have a low margin is because we want to sell a lot. We want this to impact people's lives, and we want this to really help people. And it's a project we're very dedicated to, and it's a cause we care about.
Except Mr. Accenture.
Well, Mr. Accenture is pretty involved, actually, and he's just not here today because he's been involved with the design throughout every weekend he can be.
Yeah, he's been absolutely integral. It's just that his career at this point just has called him to that, but at the same time, that does not mean that he would not be joining us in this capacity either.
So is this like a first initial step? Because this is a very small customer base, which is
Correct.
homeowners growing, lettuce and arugula in their backyard. But if you size and scale this up, this can be much bigger in agriculture.
Correct.
So what's your plan? What's going on?
Sure. Can I take this one?
Yeah.
I think that scaling up in just gardens makes sense alone. If you look at those figures, if you want to go back to the slide, we have 35% of Americans growing produce. And if you look at future growth, millennials are more and more the ones who are doing this. So we're trying to market to a customer segment that is really coming to maturity and is going to start trying to grow more in their house. And we think that that is a large number to hit ourselves, and that is exactly where our scaling factor is going to come in, is in selling to these 4.5 million people who all can benefit directly from our product as it currently stands.
That's just in California, though.
That's correct.
You said 13 million Americans.
No.
13 million Californians.
Yes.
13 million household Californians, sorry.
Californians.
So to add on to that as well, we're looking at a couple other markets of expansion. First off would be other areas in the U.S. that are facing drought conditions, like California's front basin. Like Colorado's front basin. We're also looking at other customer segments like hydroponic growers. There's a lot of, internationally, there are a couple markets like Bermuda that don't have any generation capacity, don't have any desalination because it doesn't make sense on that scale. So I think we can continue to find pockets of consumers that will be facing drought conditions. And then in California, our market will likely increase as the price of water increases. Right now, in agriculture in California, the price of water is heavily subsidized, which means that at that kind of volume use, and that price, our machine does not make sense for like large-scale agriculture. If we're talking about smaller organic farms, certainly. But we are looking for the return of drought conditions across agricultural basins in California. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.